After the Battle of Panipat, the Maratha Empire was completely broken down because the Marathas lost almost their entire capital, they lost almost their entire human capital, and lakhs were wiped out. Thereafter, Peshwa Madhav Rao, who came just after that, rehabilitated the Maratha Empire to some extent. He was a very brave man. And had he continued, it is said that one of the tragedies of the Maratha Empire was that Sambhaji and Madhav Rao both died very young. Had they ruled longer, maybe the picture in the country would have been different. So when Madhav Rao died at a very early age, his son Narayan Rao became the Peshwa. Now here there was a dispute about the post of Peshwa, where Raghava Dada, who was his uncle, wanted the post for himself, and he had Narayan Rao brutally murdered. Thereafter, assumed the post of Peshwa. Now, a group of Sardars who were loyal to the Peshwa Gaddi thought that this was not the right thing to do. Therefore, they formed an organization. There were 12 of them, Bara Bhai. So it was called the Bar Bhai. So these Bar Bhai got together and, fighting the forces of Raghava, defeated them and installed Narayan Rao's young son on the Gaddi of the Peshwa and ran it on his behalf. Now, Raghava Dada played a very crucial role in this, in the decline of the Maratha Empire later. He went and joined the British. The first Anglo-Maratha war was fought, in which the British were very badly mauled by the Marathas. And as one of the conditions of the treaty, Raghava Dada was handed back to them. Now, befitting somebody who is the son of Baji Rao, the greatest Peshwa ever, he was given a lot of respect and just told that he should not interfere in the local politics. However, he escaped from Pune and went and joined the Portuguese. So the Portuguese saw a golden opportunity to extract concessions from the Maratha Empire. Because by that time, the Maratha Empire was getting much weaker. It was pressurized by the Nizam, it was pressurized by the British, and the Portuguese thought that the Marathas were not in a position to open a third front. And therefore, they sent an envoy to the office of the Peshwa for discussing regarding a ship called Santana, which the Marathas had captured in 1772. The issue of this ship remained suspended from 1772 to 1776. And after 4 years, they started the negotiation. And the object of the negotiation was only to tell the Marathas that if you do not accede to what we are saying, we will use Raghava and the Nizam and British nexus against you. Finding themselves not in a position to fight on three fronts, the Marathas made peace with the Portuguese and signed a treaty. As per the treaty, they gave them cash compensation for the Santana, they gave some teak wood for building a fresh ship, and they ceded 70 villages of Nagar Haveli, Pargana, which was under their control, to the Portuguese in order to get a revenue of 12,000 rupees per year. Now, Portuguese then went on to buy 2 or 3 villages from the Raja of Dharampur, and they became masters of Dadra and Nagar Haveli in 1783. 15th of August 1947, all of us say India got independence. It's absolutely correct. However, at that point of time, India got independence only from the British. There was Hyderabad, where the Nizam was holding out. There was Kashmir, where the instrument of accession had not been signed. And there was the Nawab of Junagadh, who wanted to actually merge with Pakistan. Over 48-49, after the pressure exerted and the Iron Man of India, where he took action, we had Hyderabad merging into India, we had Kashmir merging into India. The Nawab of Junagadh fled, and there was a plebiscite done there, at the end of which the people of Junagadh wanted to join India, so it acceded. The French went by negotiation. They left certain areas in 48, certain areas in 50, and finally by 52 they were de facto gone. That left only the Portuguese. And the Portuguese were there in Goa, Daman, Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, which is where we come back to the story now. Now, why did the Indian government not send its armies into Portuguese occupied territories? Why did they not carry out something like the operation that was carried out in Hyderabad or the operation that was carried out in Kashmir? Now, there's a legal technicality in this. The technicality is that the Portuguese parliament had passed a resolution in which they had described Portugal as a multi-continent, multi-location country, which effectively meant that Goa, Daman, Diu, Dadra, Nagar Haveli were not colonies of Portugal, they were districts of Portugal. They were actually Portugal itself. And Portugal was a member of NATO. And NATO, as you know, the basis of the treaty is that in case one of the NATO countries is attacked by a foreign power, all the NATO countries will retaliate. Keeping this in mind, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who was then the Prime Minister, thought it prudent that they should not send their armies into Portuguese occupied territories and they should not risk the getting into battle or getting into any kind of problem with the total NATO countries, given the condition of the country as it has recently been liberated. He therefore made a statement in Parliament. I am not quoting, but it is to this meaning that the liberation of the territories under Portuguese occupation is the responsibility of the people staying there, and neither the Indian government nor the Indian people will have anything to do with it. Now, this was the crux from which arose this uprising. Portuguese as an occupying force were much crueler than the British. I am not saying the British were good. I am not saying the French were here to do charity or help us develop the railways or roads or anything like that. They were here to exploit us. They carried out many cases of cruelty. However, there was a modicum of justice in them. I mean, after Jallianwala Bagh, after all, Brigadier Dyer was tried, and he was tried and convicted. So, such things, at least there was some element of justice in it. With the Portuguese, there was none. It was cruelty at its worst. Freedom was celebrated on the 15th of August 1954 there. And a huge rally took place in which Vishwanath Lavande, as president of the Azad Gomantak Dal, gave a speech and said that we are not here to rule you. We are not here to substitute the Portuguese. You are on your own, and we would like you to go and send a letter to the government of India asking for these territories to accede into your territory. They constituted something called the Varisht Panchayat. I mean, there were 72 panchayats in that area. The sarpanches of that elected 20 Varishta Sarpanchs, and that formed a Varishta Panchayat. This Varishta Panchayat was to take over the administration of the area, for which as an administrator, for a few months there was Vishwanath Lavande, and then for 1 year there was Appasaheb Karmalkar, who was a bank employee and associated with the Dal. And Nana Kazrekar was their chief of police for that period of time. Now, this Varishta Panchayat immediately sent off a letter to the government of India and said, we want to accede to you, now we are free. This is where the twist comes. The government of India refused to take them over. Oh. Yes. Nehru said that you have liberated Portuguese territory by the use of arms and Indians have taken part in the revolution. I cannot do this because I will evoke the ire of NATO. Therefore, I will not take you over. Now, what do? The Portuguese are gone and the Indians will not take you over. So, being in this situation, these people declared Dadra and Nagar Haveli to be a free country. So from 1954, when it was liberated, to 1961, when it finally acceded, there were 3 governments working within Indian geographical areas. One was, of course, the Indian government, one was the Portuguese government covering Goa, Daman and Diu, and there was the government of the Free State of Dadra and Nagar Haveli, run by the Varishta Panchayat. What happens to the heroes who had fought? All of them, at the first instance possible after the liberation, went back to their normal lives. They did not claim any single post, they did not take any currency from there, they did not demand any kind of privileges, and they went back and settled in their routine lives and started living those lives. Now, what happens to Dadra and Nagar Haveli? Which is that the Portuguese governor asked the government of India for permission to transport their troops through 35 kilometers of Indian territory so that they can take back Portuguese territories which have been illegally captured by thieves, ruffians, brigands. They said, use those words, terrorists. The government of India mercifully refused. And so the Portuguese went to the World Court and they filed a case saying this is the dominion of Portugal and some people have taken it over. So government of India should be forced to allow us to send our army through Indian territory to capture that area. This case went on for 7 years. In 7 years, what these boys did was, they actually searched for the original treaty, which I refer to in the beginning of the talk I am giving you right now. They searched for the original treaty, and they found that the treaty which was lodged in the World Court was a translation of the original Marathi treaty. It was only signed by the Queen of Portugal, not by the Peshwa. And it contained certain variations in wording between the original and the translation. Thereafter, for the Marathi version, and they found it was only signed by the Peshwa and not by the Queen. So effectively no territory existed. No treaty existed between the two of them. They took this to the World Court. And they also produced documents which said that the area which was referred to as Mahal, The Mahal was given to the Portuguese only to collect revenue worth rupees 12,000. And they were not given rights to own it. When these documents were lodged with the World Court ruled in India's favor and did not permit the armies to come across. And finding that meanwhile NATO countries had offered no support to Portugal on this issue, the government of India passed the 10th Constitution Amendment permitting the merger of Dadra and Nagar Haveli with the Indian Union. Now, this was passed by the Lok Sabha on the 15th of August, by the Rajya Sabha on the 16th, but it was held effective 11th August. So, on the 16th of August, the accession document was to be signed, where they came up against a very strange problem, which is that on behalf of the Indian government, Nehruji could appoint anybody to sign the instrument. Who signs it on behalf of the Free State of Dadra and Nagar Haveli? Because there is no official government there. There is no legislature body. There is nobody to sign that document. So what do you do in such a case? So Nehruji appointed sent there one Mr. K.G. Badlani, who was an IAS officer, and he had also been working there as an administrator and as a kind of consultant for some time. He was sent there. The Varisht Panchayat elected him Prime Minister for one day. And the only job given to him was to sign away the independence of his country. So this is the only case where a civil servant became the Prime Minister of a separate country and his only job was to sign away the independence of the country. So one evening he is elected Prime Minister, next day morning he goes and signs the instrument of accession, it merges into the Indian government, he resigns as Prime Minister, goes back as a civil servant. This is how the whole story unfolded. And